So I just wanted to start with a couple of questions about like the ones that I've sent over. Like when did you discover your love for music? Because for me, I found that the different homes that I was in had different musical influences. And obviously, like a lot of people get their first kind of taste of music through the parents. So how did you find like navigating that?
I think for me, the first like experience of me kind of really getting into music was probably about like 3 or 4. I went to church a lot with my adopted mum, so a lot of the music that was kind of like around the household was like either like gospel music, R&B, not too much, 'cause obviously my adopted mum was very like particular about kind of like things that I listened to, but it was all very like soulful music as well. So that was like my first like introductions, kind of being like, oh, I do like how this sounds. And then we go into church as well. We obviously like end up singing loads of stuff. So that was kind of my first like introduction to like music in a live form. As I got older, I had like different foster families where one family lived with for like 7 years, and they were very much into like indie music and rock music. So we listened to that quite a lot. My first gig, I was about probably like 9 or 10, and I went to go see Katie Tunstall.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, that was like my first like gig that I went to, and then like the week after I went to go see Travis.
Oh shit!
So,
okay,
so
variety.
Yeah, like different variety. So as you get older, you obviously have all these different influences, and then that kind of led my, I'd probably say, led me into wanting to be like, oh, what can I do as a musician myself? I started playing guitar when I was like 9, like 10.
Yeah.
So I just play like little bits on the guitar, and that kind of like was my path into starting music.
Love it. Did you feel that you were like supported? And when you said if you said, oh yeah, I'm ready to like, I want to explore it. Like, do you feel like you were given opportunities to explore it and supported to explore like learning how to play guitar?
Yeah. So with regards to learning guitar, my foster dad like taught me like a lot. That was like my first like way of actually being able to express myself like freely. Like I'd tried learning piano when I was younger, like before that, but the fun very quickly got taken out of it, and so I kind of like put piano to the side.
Yeah.
But then when I learned guitar, like my foster dad had taught me, that was because he taught me in a way that was fun and enjoyable. So that kind of then made me want to start doing things like songwriting and write little bits here and there.
Yeah. So you really found a way that worked for you. Like,
yeah.
That's gorgeous. Did you find there were any challenges like pursuing music professionally? Like, also just a quick one, and we do not have to talk about it all, but do you remember when we did our GCSE music?
Yeah. But my paper didn't get submitted.
Yeah, well, I remember that, and I was wondering if you wanted to talk about it, because I just think that, like, obviously you're such a talented musician. You're really very, 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 very talented, and it's like, it was so hard to see that happen. Not to make it about me, but you know what I mean? Like, because if you'd have been given the appropriate support, like maybe you wouldn't have gotten so frustrated in that exam. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't have to talk about it as well, though. But I think it's big boss energy. To be fair, I quite enjoyed it.
Because it was strange, because obviously my first year of doing GCSE music, I obviously had Mr. Mackenzie, who was like, and throughout high school, he was like one of the driving forces behind me, like actually like keeping up with doing music, because he like held me accountable in a lot of ways. And so for the first year of music, even though like I struggled with like things with regards like musical, it was like musical theory, it was like my thing. Like the moment I see a stave in front of me, I'd just be like, it's just dots.
Yeah.
That was the way that like I kind of approached it.
It wasn't the most interesting theory either, to be fair.
And so I'd often struggle to concentrate because I was like, this is like, I'm just seeing lines and dots. Like, that side of it didn't appeal to me. So then when I went into my second year of doing like music at school, I then had a different teacher, and I was just like, from the get go, like, we clashed. And so as a result, it was just like every lesson I turned up, I was like, I have no like intention of listening to you because you don't have any respect for me, so why should I respect you?
Yeah.
And there was a number of us who felt like that.
Absolutely.
So by the time it then got to doing the paper, and obviously I'd then had a few months out of school, I was kind of just like, I don't really like have like the need. And then while I was in the exam, just having this teacher just constantly looking over my shoulder, and like there was like all this tension, and that's when my brain was just like, I'm not doing this paper. And just turned to the back and was like, well, might as well go out on my sword, and I'm going to tell the teachers and tell the school exactly what I thought of that year. And then next thing you know, it was like taking the paper, and I'm like, we're not submitting it. And I was like,
fine.
It's not something I'm going to lose sleep over, because that, I always felt like, that wasn't going to define like what I could do in the future. So regardless whether the paper was submitted or not, I'm still going to be able to do music because it's what I was working towards the whole time.
Yeah. No, it's sick. I'll never get over it. And just, I think like, clearly you have done what you wanted to do regardless of that piece of paper. So it's golden really, isn't it? I think you touched on it a little bit before, but I was just going to ask, like, do you feel that being care experienced, do you feel that being involved in music kind of helped you to get that expression out and like, some of the more difficult things, like give you space to kind of air that?
Yeah, definitely. I think with the experiences that I've gone through, I've kind of felt that writing about what I've gone through, it not only like helps me kind of work through it, but I also feel that other people can listen to it and go, I understand what it's like to be in that situation. I think being able to tell our stories through music is important, because I don't think there's enough people in the music industry in particular who are comfortable talking about those subjects. And as I found, even when you're in the writing sessions with writers and other musicians, when you kind of bring up your experiences, they kind of freeze up a little bit, because they're kind of like, it's not really something people's
what do I say to this?
Comfortable to be like getting on a conversation about. So for me, I'm quite comfortable writing about it. It might not be a popular thing to talk about, but I know that someone's going to be able to listen to that and go, I've been in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important. I think like that's part of the reason that I'm so stoked that you were able to come as well, is that like something that we're trying to do with Juno and the Experts by Experience and everything, it's about like having an understanding that being a care leaver can look different than, I don't know, it's, we really want to amplify people's lived experience and their voices, because it makes such a difference. And like when we first started like opening our homes, it was all informed by people that had care experience, and then like as the homes have gone on, like it just continues to any kind of things that come up, because we know we're not perfect, we know we're not going to get everything right. Like we're still like are we in our second year now actually, but we're just about to open the third home, and it's like, I don't know, it's so important. People's lived experience is so important, and I just think that like having a role model, and I hate to say role model because that kind of puts pressure on you, but like just being able to see a care experienced person doing well is so nice. And like yeah, I don't know, I just think it's really important. I'm really stoked that you came, so thank you.
Honestly, for me.
What advice would you give to a younger care experience person that's trying to go into music or a creative industry?
I think doing the work at home is probably the most important thing. I think for me, from a very young age, I'd get home, I'd do my homework, and then I'd get my guitar out, we'd practice, and I'd practice, and I'd practice, and practice. I was really fortunate that my foster mum, Sue, she really pushed me in terms of music, and so she would sit there and she'd just listen, and she'd be like, I really like that song, I really like that part, but I don't like why you're overdoing that.
Yeah.
You need to be doing that. And she's like, just sing the song.
Yeah.
Don't try to be other people. Sing the song how
you sing.
How you sing, because that's the way you'll get better.
Yeah.
So having someone who was comfortable listening to me, and pushing me, that really helped. But it's that practice at home. I also think you also have to, how's best to say this? Sometimes you have to do things that are going to make you uncomfortable. So sometimes, for me, going into a venue or a pub or a bar and saying, "Can I play here?"
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any events or anything? Because a lot of places will have like open mic nights.
Mm-hmm.
So you start doing open mic nights, for example, and you get that experience of being in front of a crowd. It's not going to be people who you're necessarily going to know.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be those nerves. But if you can get used to doing that, then the next stage, you want to be trying to book your own gigs or trying to do just do it actively. Because if you're not consistent and it's stop, start, then you'll struggle to get into a flow. But I was performing 3-4 times a week, and you're not necessarily going to get paid the best. I remember I used to play in a bar on every Sunday, and for like 6-7 hours work, I got £20 and then a few drinks to go along, and I would literally be in there every single Sunday. And like people would be like you mad? Why are you doing this?
Got him.
And I was just like, I just need to get that practice in and need to get that work in, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
There was moments where I could play on a weekend and might be like 1 or 2 people for the whole entire time. But it didn't really matter, because for me, I was like, well, you just feel uncomfortable. You'd see people, walking past, and it'd be like, it's one person. It was like, for me, having that goal and just be like, the more I do this, the more practice. By the time, I actually start to make those steps into the music industry, I know I've got that experience of being under pressure, of having those highs, of having loads of people that having so by the time I went onto The Voice, I was like, this doesn't really feel like pressure.
As well,
Just the crowd here is the same as if I had a good weekend and played in front of a whole entire pub full of people.
That's cool. So that kind of practice of being uncomfortable and putting yourself in that uncomfortable situation, you were able to kind of put that onto The Voice as well, because that was something I was going to ask. How do you feel that being a care experience kind of affected how you experienced The Voice and how you experienced being on a show like that?
To an extent, I think, because of the way television kind of is, they always want a story. So, feel like there's certain things where, I'd spoken to ITV and I was like, I don't want it to be a thing, because unless, I felt able to, I could actually tell my own story, I was kind of trying to, lean away from it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time people will go, oh, it's a sub story, but the truth is this is people's real lives. So regardless of whether people want to go, oh, here we go, we've got a sub story, this is people's real experiences. I often feel like there's a lot of people who, are care leavers or have gone through things where the story can often be warped by the public. So unless you're the one who's able to tell that story, I kind of wanted to avoid bringing it up. Obviously, there was this thing where, everyone's there with the families and all this kind of thing, and I was really fortunate that Max was there. Because it just felt like I was at home because we lived together.
Yeah.
So there was that thing where, there'd be moments where you'd be sat there and you're just like, I really wish, I had, my family to be able to like see me doing what I'm doing. And so there is that feeling of pressure, and like you kind of feel like when you have those good moments, you just want the certain people to be there. But I feel like the experience was enjoyable for me, and I felt, I'd be, when I was getting messages from people who are in care or care leavers, it really helped a lot to be able to have people reach out to me and say, really like that you're actually out there, being able to live your dreams and actually showing us it's possible, which was meant a lot.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous because I think like from some care leavers that I've spoken to, they've found that there's a bit of a preconception about what it is to be like a person in care, and like, sorry, I just interrupted you. You're gonna go slow then as well. So you've said what happens, well, did we say what happened? Yeah, you wrote your little...
Yeah, so with regards to the GCSE thing, so the conclusion was, after writing an A4 side about how I felt with regards to the last year of my music GCSEs, with regards to how I felt the teaching was, how I felt there was a lack of respect. The paper was taken. In the end, I was told it wasn't going to be submitted for grading, and then there was obviously like a meeting between like certain teachers. But yeah, it was. I think like in the end, I think I must have got like a D or something, because obviously there's like the music paper, and there was like the composition and the practical stuff.
So you did really, really well in that one, I imagine. Yeah.
It was just like due to what happened with the music theory, I got a D. But it's like, I feel like one thing I'll always say to people is, it doesn't that doesn't define you.
Yeah.
Just because you might not have got what you wanted, then doesn't mean you can't work towards having that goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you just have to be consistent and just keep your eye on what you want.
Yeah.
And just block out outside noise, because I feel like a lot of times we always get told you should always have a backup plan. And while it's you can tell people that, I don't think it encourages people to actually pursue what they want to if they're constantly being told to have a backup plan, because all that says to me is that you don't necessarily believe they can do it.
Absolutely. This is something that like we've been trying to explore a little bit, is this whole idea of like dreaming big, and that care leavers often or people in care are they're not pushed to their full potential. It's kind of like, oh, well, you've got a lot going on at home, so it's okay if you're getting a D, or it's okay if you're getting a B. And it's like, but actually I'm capable of an A. Like, why aren't you trying to push me to get an A? Like, yeah. But also, yeah, it does just go to show that like really you can be as academic as you please. I think I probably did okay in the academic part of music, but I did not do well in the rest of it. So like, just because you can regurgitate a bunch of facts about like Beethoven or Miles Davis, was it, or something?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't mean that you're a talented musician, because I certainly was not. It's all right. That was very polite, Mo. Brilliant. So that's got me thinking a little bit as well about like, I wanted to ask, if you had a magic wand, is there anything that you'd want to change about like what happens when you leave care?
I think there needs to be more preparation for care leavers in terms of understanding, financial literacy, in terms of like, preparing young people to handle money, understanding what their, what rights they have, and like the things that they can access. Because I do feel like a lot of young people who we grew up with, we all have gone through similar experiences where at some point we've left care. We've gone through things like homelessness, and it could, when you're trying to navigate things like your education, but you're having to worry about where you're going to stay, how you're going to pay for everything.
Yeah,
that I feel like that's where a lot of young people just suddenly just drop off, because it's so busy trying to focus on surviving that they actually forget to live.
Yeah, absolutely.
And trying to go into survival mode from such a young age, it doesn't really set you up for success further down the line.
No, it doesn't.
So I think having that's like actually teaching young people, how to be able to get housing, how to budget more efficiently. I think that'd probably be like what I'd wish for.
Yeah. Just while we're sharing, my wish is that doesn't stop at 25. I think that's what I was trying to get at earlier, is that like we're over 25. I think our voices are still important, but there's a lot of companies or charities or whatever that because the government says that care leaver is 16 or 18 to 25, that's all they cater to. But I think if I had a little magic wand, I'd absolutely keep support ever, because families don't just disappear when you turn 25.
Well, that is very true. That is very true.
Do you remember on the tall ships?
Oh god, yeah, that was hilarious.
Do you want to give the context of what happened on the tall ship?
One of my favourite memories from that week was because we me and you, there's me, you, and Kelly, and obviously we did 3 hour it's 3-4 hour shifts on that boat, and I just remember if we finished one of the shifts and it was probably 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and we're like, right, we finished the shift, we can go to bed. So we did the swap, and literally we got into our beds, and probably not an hour had gone by, and it was just, you need to get up. I was like, what is going on? And both of us just been half asleep putting our stuff on, and then all of a sudden, the ladder is in front of us, and all I see is the sky is still kind of pitch black, but the water is just the waves. And I was like, oh my gosh, where's the harness? And just putting it onto the rope, and I was just what have we awoken to? Because we'd gone to bed and it was peace.
Chill.
It was the water was calm, it was relaxed. I was like, can't wait to get into the bunk. And then it just, within the space of an hour, it was just when did it suddenly become Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah.
Am I going to make it off this boat? Fine. And it was just I'm way too tired to be doing this. It just woken up. And now they're just you're just going to have to go into action mode, and now you got to be the crew of the ship. I was just oh my god,
flat,
literally.
So context for that is that we used to be a part of this children in care council in the local authority where we grew up. We had a team building week on a tall ship, which is an old-fashioned boat with the masts and the sails and all kinds. So we sailed from somewhere down south, didn't we, to almost Ireland, and then we didn't go to Ireland.
And I think we ended up in Wales somewhere.
Yeah,
it was at some point, and we were just the first night. I think most people were sick.
Yeah,
within we're just getting seasick within hours of leaving the dock. The dock, it was just it's just we're on this boat for 5 or 7 days. It was just we just thought it was going to be after one night. But then after the first night, people
got some sea legs, didn't we?
Yeah, I didn't. It was it was lovely, just out on the water. I loved it. We all just it was a lot of fun for all of us.
It was a lot of fun. We had the 2 people that were the boat people, didn't we? The actual sailors. And then we had a couple of people that helped support the Children in Care Council. And one of those people wrote a report on his time with us on the boat. And when I was reading it back, the thing that kind of stuck out to me was that on one evening, me and Mo cross-dressed. I dressed as a man and put a lovely beard on, and Mo looked ravishing in your dress. And And we baked like delicious brownies, didn't we, or something? And this guy who'd like written the report, his takeaway was like he was really concerned about us cross-dressing. And it was just a bit wild. Like, we'd spent a week on a boat, we'd done some great stuff, we were working in 3-hour shifts, like, and we were under 18.
We just left high school.
Yeah. And his takeaway was not that we'd made delicious brownies, but that we'd cross-dressed, and he was very concerned. So I just thought that was a funny story.
It was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming and talking to us and sharing your experiences. I'm very, very grateful, and it was gorgeous to catch up. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, treasure.